Welcome to the Deep Dive. So you're thinking about laying engineered wood flooring.
Good choice.
Yeah, smart move. It gives you that fantastic real wood look, planks or maybe something fancier, but without all the fuss of solid wood sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But then you hit that point, right? You're probably wondering, okay, so what actually goes into installing this stuff?
That's exactly it. That's the crossroads lots of people find themselves at. You've got the beautiful boxes ready.
Yeah, the excitement's building.
The anticipation, definitely.
Mhm.
But also that question mark over the practical side.
Mhm.
We've been looking at this really helpful guide
Right.
from someone who's actually done it, laid the floor while juggling family life, kids, pets, the whole shebang.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
It gives a really sort of down-to-earth perspective on what to expect.
Exactly. This isn't some abstract manual. It's real world experience. So our mission today really is just to give you a clear picture. What does laying engineered wood involve? Whether you're planning to DIY it or, hire pros, we want to take the mystery out, maybe lower the stress levels a bit,
Definitely.
and help you get that gorgeous floor you're picturing. So let's kick things off right at the start, preparing the room.
Absolutely. That's the foundation, isn't it? Before you even think about the new floor, that room needs to be completely empty.
Everything out.
Every single thing. Furniture, rugs, all of it. Just picture a totally clean slate for your new floor.
Okay. And it's not just about what's on the old floor, is it? What about the old flooring itself? I mean, the guide mentioned you can sometimes lay engineered wood over tiles or vinyl.
Yeah, it did.
But what's the ideal for the best result?
Well, look, it can be tempting to skip that step, save a bit of work, and maybe in some very specific cases, it's possible.
Right.
But honestly, the gold standard is a clean, even subfloor.
Yeah.
Any unevenness underneath, it can eventually show through. They call it telegraphing.
Ah, telegraphing.
Yeah, you'll see or maybe even feel those bumps and dips later on. And it can cause problems with how the planks lock together, too, over time.
Okay.
So yeah, removing the old floor might seem like more work up front, but it often leads to a much better, longer-lasting finish.
That makes total sense. You want that beautiful new floor to be perfectly flat and stable. Okay, so old floor's gone. We're looking at the subfloor now. Could be concrete, could be timber joists. What are the absolute must-checks at this stage?
The subfloor is so critical. It's the base for everything that follows. The guide really hammers home three things: flatness, dryness, and cleanliness.
Okay, flatness first.
Flatness is vital.
Yeah.
Any big high spots or low spots, they'll stop the engineered wood sitting right. A simple way to check is with a long level or even just a straight piece of wood laid across the floor.
Right.
If you see gaps bigger than, say, a coin's thickness over a few feet, that's something you need to address.
And dryness, especially concrete, I guess.
Exactly. Dryness is huge with concrete subfloors. Any moisture coming up from below can really damage the wood. You can actually rent moisture meters to check the levels properly.
Good tip.
And cleanliness, well, that's pretty straightforward. You just don't want dust or grit trapped under your new floor.
Yeah.
It can cause little bumps, maybe even squeaks down the line.
Squeaks. Nobody wants those.
Definitely not. The author actually had a great tip to make clearing the room a bit less painful.
Oh, yeah.
Turn it into a floor picnic for the kids. Get them involved, make it a bit of fun before the serious work starts.
That's brilliant. I like that. Okay, room's clear, subfloors checked and prepped. What's the next big step the guide really emphasizes?
This is the one where patience is, it's everything. Even though you're itching to get going,
Okay.
it's acclimatizing the flooring. The guide is really clear on this. Those unopened boxes of engineered wood, they have to sit in the room where they'll be installed.
Right. For how long?
For at least 48 hours, 2 full days, before you even think about laying plank 1.
48 hours. Wow. Okay, that feels like ages when you've got the boxes sitting there. Why? What's the big deal?
It's all about letting the wood adjust. It needs to get used to the specific temperature and humidity inside that room in your home.
Oh, okay.
See, wood's a natural material. It expands when it's humid, contracts when it's dry. It's just what it does.
Right.
If you install it straight away, without letting it adjust first, you risk gaps opening up later when it's dry.
Oh, no.
Or even worse, the whole floor could buckle up when the wood expands if it gets more humid. Imagine laying a puzzle and then the pieces change size.
Yeah, nightmare.
It just won't work. So like the guide says, that weight is absolutely worth it. It prevents potentially really costly, really frustrating problems later. I actually heard about someone who skipped it.
Oh.
And ended up with noticeable gaps between planks just a few weeks later.
That's a shame. Wow. Okay, point taken. Patience up front saves headaches later. Right. So mandatory 48-hour wait is over. We can finally get to the actual installation. The guide mentions 3 main ways to do it. Can you walk us through those?
Sure. So the first method, and probably the most common for DIYers, is the floating floor.
Floating floor. Okay.
This is where the planks, they usually have a click lock system these days where the edges just click together.
Like puzzle pieces.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they're glued along the tongue and groove edges. But the key thing is they're laid over an underlay layer.
Right.
And they aren't actually fixed down to the subfloor itself. The whole floor sort of floats on top. The guide notes it's generally quieter and, yeah, pretty suitable for DIY.
So it's like building a whole new floor surface that just sits there held together by itself.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Then the second method is glue down.
Sounds straightforward.
It is what it says. Each plank is stuck directly to the subfloor using a special wood flooring adhesive. This gives a really solid feel underfoot. It's often the way to go for more complex patterns, like parquet or herringbone,
Ah, right.
where you want absolutely minimal movement between the little pieces. You need to make sure you use the right adhesive for engineered wood, though.
Got it. And number 3.
That's the nail down, or sometimes staple down method. Now, the guide points out this is more traditional for solid wood,
Okay.
but you can sometimes use it with thicker engineered wood, usually only over a wooden subfloor like floorboards or plywood. You physically nail or staple each plank down through the tongue.
So for someone listening, maybe thinking of doing it themselves, it sounds like floating is generally the way to go, the easiest route.
For most standard installations, yeah, probably. Those click systems are designed to be pretty user-friendly.
Right.
But, as the guide sensibly points out, if you're tackling a really big room, or maybe you've chosen a tricky pattern like chevron, it might be worth getting quotes from the pros. They've got the experience, the specialist tools. They can handle those complex layouts properly and efficiently.
True.
The guide even mentioned feedback about the peace of mind you get with professional installation. That's definitely worth considering.
Absolutely. Sometimes paying for expertise saves you time, mistakes, and a whole lot of hassle in the long run. Now, you mentioned underlay with the floating floor. Let's dig into that a bit. What is it exactly and why use it?
Right, underlay. It's basically a thin layer of material, often foam or cork or felt, that you roll out over the subfloor before you lay a floating floor.
Okay.
And it does several important jobs. The guide highlights, firstly, sound reduction. It dampens that footstep noise.
Oh, that's good.
Makes the floor quieter to walk on. Secondly, it gives a bit of cushioning underfoot. Makes it feel slightly softer, more comfortable.
Nice.
And thirdly, some underlays offer a bit of thermal insulation too, which can help keep the room feeling a touch warmer.
So multiple benefits there. And the guide also mentioned moisture barriers, didn't it? Linked to underlay.
Yes, very important point. Especially if you're going over concrete or maybe installing in a basement or even a kitchen where there might be more moisture.
Right.
Some underlays actually come with a moisture barrier built right in. Usually it looks like a thin plastic film attached to one side.
Ah, convenient.
Yeah, to help stop any dampness rising from the subfloor and getting into your engineered wood. If you're doing a glue down install, you typically use an adhesive that also acts as a moisture barrier, or you might need to put down a separate damp-proof membrane first before gluing.
Okay, good to know. So we've prepped the room, acclimatized the wood, chosen our methods, sorted the underlay and moisture protection. Phew. Now the exciting bit, laying the planks. Give us the simplified version of how that usually works.
Okay, the actual laying. The guide suggests starting along the longest straight wall.
Makes sense.
And if possible, lay the planks parallel to the main light source, like the main window. It often looks better, makes the seams less obvious, and can make the room feel bigger.
Good tip.
Now, a really crucial thing right at the start, use spacers. Little plastic or cork wedges, maybe 10 to 15 millimeters thick. Put them all around the edge of the room, between the first row planks and the wall.
Spacers. Why the gap? Seems counterintuitive.
But it's essential. That's your expansion gap. Remember how wood expands and contracts?
Yeah, with humidity and temperature.
Exactly. That small gap gives the whole floor room to breathe, to move slightly, without pushing hard against the walls. If it didn't have that gap, it could buckle up or warp when it expands.
Okay. So that little gap is super important.
Absolutely vital for the floor's long-term health. Then, as you lay the rows, you need to stagger the joints.
Like bricks in a wall, right? So the short ends don't all line up.
Precisely. Don't have the end joints lining up row after row. Staggering them makes the floor look much more natural, much more professional.
And stronger too, presumably.
And stronger, yes. It adds structural integrity.
Yeah.
So just keep working your way across the room, row by row. Obviously, you'll need to cut the planks in the last row to fit.
Right.
And the guide mentions that satisfying click you get with the click lock systems as the planks snap together. It's a good sound. Tells you it's locked in properly.
Sounds quite satisfying, actually. Okay, so last plank is down, nearly there. What are the finishing touches that pull it all together?
Almost done. Home stretch. First, carefully take out all those spacers you put around the edges.
Okay.
Then you need to cover up that expansion gap you left. This is usually done with skirting boards, baseboards that go along the bottom of the wall.
Right.
Or sometimes people use a smaller trim called scotia molding, which tucks neatly into the corner between the floor and the existing skirting. Either way, it hides the gap and gives a clean, finished edge.
Looks neat.
Then just give the whole floor a gentle clean to get rid of any installation dust, or maybe adhesive marks if you glued it down. And another bit of patience required. The guide advises keeping heavy furniture off and avoiding heavy foot traffic for at least 24 hours.
Let it all settle.
Exactly. Just let everything settle into place properly.
Okay. Patience right to the end. So floor's in, looks amazing. How do we keep it looking that good? What about aftercare? Any tips from the guide?
Yeah, engineered wood is pretty durable stuff, but a bit of care definitely helps keep it pristine. The guide strongly recommends felt pads under furniture legs.
Oh, yeah, essential.
Tables, chairs, sofas, anything that might get moved.
Right.
Prevents scratches and gouges. Huge difference.
Definitely.
For cleaning, the absolute key is don't use too much water. A slightly damp mop is fine. Never soak the floor.
Right, damp mop only.
And a really simple but effective thing, mat to the entrances, doormats inside and out if possible. They catch so much dirt, grit, water before it gets tracked onto your lovely floor. The author even shared a funny little anecdote about their kid bringing in like half the garden on their shoes.
Been there.
It's a reminder that life happens, but those mats really do help minimize the damage.
For sure. Those everyday things test our floors. Okay, so quick recap then of our deep dive on laying engineered wood. It really boils down to good prep, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Clearing the room, checking that subfloor meticulously.
And that critical acclimatization. Don't forget the 48 hours.
Cannot stress that enough.
Yeah.
Then understanding the installation methods, floating, glue down, nail down, choosing what's right for you.
Right. And remembering underlay and moisture barriers, especially for floating floors or over concrete.
Crucial details. Then the actual laying process, starting straight, leaving that expansion gap,
Using the spacers.
staggering the joints for looks and strength.
And finally, those finishing touches. Skirting boards or scotia to hide the gap, and then just sensible aftercare.
That's it. Felt pads, damp mopping, doormats. It all adds up to keeping it looking great for years.
So, for everyone listening, whether you've just finished your floor or you're about to start, maybe take a moment to think about how each of these steps we've talked about, they don't just affect how the floor looks right now.
Yeah, it's more than just aesthetics.
It's about its longevity, how well it performs over time, and ultimately, how much you enjoy that space. It's about building a foundation, literally, that you'll appreciate for a long, long time.
Well said.
And on that thought, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.